go for a good quality, produce a good quality. However, during the presentation, I'll show how we went from poor products to producing good products. Another thing that I always propose is that if you start a business, first thing, identify a market. Look for a gap in the market. Which product, I'll say, that has a high demand on where you are. So first thing that we did is it's that research, looking at what product that is in high demand, and we saw that it's cabbage. In fact, vegetables, because most of the time our cabbage in Mthatha, we get it from a Kopo, then Yugi, which is about 75 kilometers from Tata town, and there are some small scale farmers that are producing around, but they are selling to an informal market, which is Onos Dendi, Etauni. So no one is going for the formal market. So we came in and say, you know what, we're going straight to Spar, going straight to Boxer, we're going straight to ShopRite, we're going to all the formal markets. And we do have a Kai Fresh market in Mthatha, and we're going for those. Now, going for those, you have to produce in high volumes. You cannot plant on 1 hectare and say you supply, because they are more interested in a long-term supply than a week or 1 month supply. So to gain trust from them, you have to at least supply for 3 to 4 months and say, look, I'm a farmer, I cannot have the product every day or every week. Give me time so that I can plant and supply another 4 to 5 weeks. So on the third slide, another thing that you have to consider. First thing, I know everyone is looking for land, but the most important thing is water. Depends. We as JJ, we have a big river next to us. I think it's about 20 meters from the farm. Now, it's very important to identify water or water source around your farm. I do not advise people to go for boreholes, but if you're doing tunneling system, if you go under pivot or something else, borehole, it's not a good source of water for that. So another important thing is identify the water source, then go straight to soils. Obviously, when you go straight to soils, you have to locate. That's not advisable to be more than 100 kilometers away from where you want to sell your product. I always advise people to look for lands that are, especially when you're starting for business, look for lands that are at least less than 50 kilometers away from where you want to sell. Usually towns. And yes, you do have rural people around you that can buy, but I don't think someone can go in and say, I want to farm just to focus on rural people buying from them. Always the bigger vision is going for the bigger markets, or have yourself a place where you can say the markets are coming in and buying from you. So the most important thing, third important thing, is to analyze your soils. The picture that you saw, I'm using an auger, true auger. That's where you don't have energy to dig 1 meter by 1 meter hole, and you analyze your soil. So you use that auger. I think this one was 1 meter, 1.5 meters, yes. So it goes 1.5 meters deep, gives you the profile of your soils, the depth of your soil. Obviously, I think Dr. Dimbo and Dr. Timkula are other specialists on the soil sphere. So the time I was studying, the funny thing is this. A person that helped me was Dr. Timkulu in calculating I knew how to calculate them, but when you go practical, you can calculate for fertilizer recommendation in a paper, and get the answer. But when you're doing it practically, it's not easy. So I did soil samples. I did analyze the soils, find out that our soils are loamy, which is they are good for cabbage. Cabbage loves loamy soils to clay soils. And if you have sandy soils, I would advise that you go either for maize, dry beans, soya beans. Well, on the vegetable side, there's a lot that you can plant on sandy soils. Then spinach, but cabbage does not work on sandy soil. So before I go to the next slide, I think I should open a window for questions so that, but if there are no questions, we will continue.
How are you applying fertilizer on your cabbages? Do you bend place it? You broadcast it?
Okay, that's question one. Anyone else with a question?
I heard you saying that. Okay, it's Richard.
Okay, sorry.
Hello. Yes,
Yes, you
I
can
heard
carry
you
on,
saying
Richard.
that you don't recommend borehole water. Yes, I'm saying I heard you say you don't recommend borehole water for irrigation. Why is that?
Okay. Anyone else?
I think this is the last question. I would like to know more about this irrigation method. How does it work?
Okay. Dr. Mtimkul, we
Yes.
first time we were using hand application. So, apply fertilizer next to the seedling and plant the seedling.
Okay.
But as we continue, as we continued, we saw that it takes time. Now we are using a 4-row planter, a tractor planter. What we do is that we remove the seed bins. Now we plant as if we are planting a seed, but we remove the seed bins. We have a fertilizer on the fertilizer bins. So it plants the fertilizer about, I think, 50 millimeters on the soil. Now you just go straight. So what it does, it plants the fertilizer and it draws the line for you on where you will be planting your seedlings. So what you do is that you already have the space between the lines. So the space between the lines is the space of the 4-row planter. What you do, you only measure, or when you're planting, you only measure the space between the plants. So your fertilizer is under the soil, is under your soils already by the planter. So that's how we apply the fertilizer. Then again, we do top dressing by a fertilizer spreader mounted in a tractor. Second question was, yes, I did say I don't recommend borehole water, but I recommend it. If you are using drip irrigation, you can go for it because boreholes run dry. They have what's so-called depression level. So when you go for a sprinkler irrigation, you need high volumes of water because levels of wastage of water. If you're doing drip irrigation, you can have a borehole and 10,000 liters of tanks. Your borehole fits those tanks, then those tanks feed your drip irrigation. So drip irrigation does not require huge amounts of water. Even on center pivot, I wouldn't recommend a borehole. However, you might have maybe more than 1 or 2 or 3 boreholes to feed your tanks, then you do center pivot. Again, your borehole water comes in with many minerals under your soils. Now you have to do testing of water once every 2 to 3 months So you might find salty soils from boreholes. So yeah, that's why I said I'm not saying I don't recommend it for other irrigation systems, but for sprinkler irrigation, flood irrigation, and center pivot, it's not ideal to use them. And the third question was, I'm not sure if you wanted to understand how our irrigation system works, but if that's the case, we are using it's a 19 kilowatt electric pump. It uses 3-phase. Pumps about I think about 150 liters per second. Yes, the big pump. It should be used to irrigate about 10 to 15 hectares of land. But for now, we are using it on 7 hectares. So the pressure that is producing is way more on the 7 hectares. So it should be used for 10 to 15 hectares, but we are still expanding. So there's a room to expand, and we're still hoping to go to maybe 20 hectares or something. So that means we'll have to upgrade that pump. So what you say, it's a river. There's a suction pump that goes straight to the water. It uses that suction pump to suck water up, and you have sprinklers on the fields. So I think I've answered almost all the questions. But if it's not clear, I can open a window again if someone did not get straight answers or not enough.
Just on the irrigation side, so are you using what are you using sprinklers?
Yes.
Okay, and also I was just thinking, because I see a lot of emerging farmers, they now tend to use this thing, fertigation, because I heard you speaking about your process, your fertilizer processes. So I was just thinking, will it not like be saving you time to also be looking into fertigating through drip or even sprinklers? I think you can still work it out either way. I'm not sure. Will it, or is it? It's not cost effective for you to look into fertigation.
Yes, but it is cost effective because you do fertigation and maybe some of pest you can control straight from it. We do want to do that, but for now, because we had it would be costly if we do fertigation and a sprinkler irrigation, because that means we'd be spreading the fertilizer over. But if we would do it under drip, it would be more cost effective because drip irrigation fits direct to the roots. Now we do want to convert some of our irrigated lands into drip irrigation, because with green mill we did a trial of green millis on 2 hectares, and we saw that at CS701 variety grows about 2.5 meters. Now that's way above our sprinklers. Now we do plan to put in at least in 2 or 4 hectares of drip irrigation, because I promise you it's a peace of mind working with drip irrigation. Yes, you do have to remove the pipes every time you want to prep the land, but you just turn on the switch for 2 hours, 1.5 or 2 hours, then your lands are irrigated. You don't have an issue where you say it's windy, you cannot irrigate, because with center pivot and sprinkler irrigation, you come across days where it's windy, especially in winter. And now it's very useless to irrigate when it's windy using a sprinkler. You'll be irrigating 3 to 4 hectares. 4 hours, while you would have irrigated in 2 hours. So yes, we are looking on that. It's cost efficient, But our main focus on now was expanding. Then when we expanded and met our market demand, we look into smaller portions of our production and say, look, there we have to improve, there we have to improve, so that we don't throw more money on that. So for this, so are you happy?
Yeah, I'm happy because I always see these case studies, and then it makes one wonder what the situation is from farmer to farmer, because you might be sitting in a situation where your current method it does not only work for you, but it's also cost effective. But then if you're also saying that that's something that you're also thinking of, I think then it does show that this is something that it's really worth looking into, because one thing that I'm thinking is it should be also be saving you time. The guys that are out there helping you, they could also focus on other things. So yeah, I'm happy.
Okay. Dr. Mtimkulu, you can go to the next slide.
Okay, we're here.
Okay. When you do soil samples or soil analysis, it almost tells you everything about your production until you can estimate almost everything. It's not it's not like it's going to be like that, but I can say your soils can tell you almost everything, and it can give you decision or lead you into decisions. By saying that, I'm saying yes, you can say I love doing cabbages, maize, but if your soils are saying no, it's very difficult to not change your crop or your enterprise that you love. Ours, I've said, it's red loamy soils. They are acidic. So what you see here, it's us liming. We lime almost every season to drop down our acidic, because we're using fertilizers that are high in nitrogen. Cabbage requires high volumes of nitrogen. Now, most of the fertilizers that have high nitrogens or have nitrogen do influence the acidity of the soil, or do rise the acidity of the soil. Number two, we're irrigating with a sprinkler irrigation, so there's high volumes of leachate in the soils, and we are sitting in the high rainfall areas. So almost every season we lime to drop down the acidity of our soils. We used, I think here it was dolomitic lime. So we used the long box. We applied 1 ton per hectare. We apply 1 ton per hectare of that lime. Then after we've limed like this, we disc our land so that it can be incorporated in the soil. This one requires 5 to 6 weeks before you plant, but we have one lime that came in where you can lime today and plant tomorrow. I forgot the name of the lime, but I think we've moved from this one, the white. That one, it's brown in color. Forgot the name of it. I'm not sure if Dr. Mtimkulu or Timpo, you know the names of the lime, but yes, you can go to the next slide if there's no question. So it's very important to lime the soils, even if you're not doing cabbage, you're doing maize, you're doing anything.
So are you putting just a blanket application of 1 ton per hectare of lime, or your rate is always based on the soil test?
Our soil test told us that we have to lime 1 ton per hectare. Now we assumed that almost every season or every year, well, we're doing, when I say every season, it's every year. So we usually we plant in January cabbage. We start harvesting in May, maybe late April, May, June, July. Then we plant again on August or early September. We plant in November, December. Then we start harvesting. So one season it's 1 year, and we lime in winter. So this winter will be liming, and next winter will be liming. So we're liming every year. However, we should have been doing soil samples every season, but I think we took a shortcut on that one. But Dr. Mtimkulu, we're doing it every year. We apply a blanket of lime with disc, the land, so that it can be mixed with the soil. Then we irrigate maybe for 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours sometimes means 25 to 30 milliliters of water on the soils.
Okay. Okay, no, thank you.
We can go on the next slide. Okay, so after, in the soil sampling side, you take the soil samples using a beta soil sampler. The boxes that you use, you can get them from, I think last time we did soil samples, I did them and submitted at Sidara. And I did and submitted at SASRI, so it was 2 times. Yeah, but if one is interested in doing that, you can go to them and they can give you directions on how to take soil samples. But you use a beta sampler, and results comes back, and they give you per nutrient, the requirement under that crop that you want to plant, and requirements per nutrient, that's NPK, and other elements or nutrients on the soils that your crop might have deficiency on. Then from there you can calculate how well you know how much is in the soils from the soil sample. Then you calculate what you have to add, so that you don't put too much or you don't put less. So that's based on cost efficiency. So the slide. So after you've done the incorporation of the lime, we use a disc. That's the big implement. We're using a disc, and this can be used by a 110 kilowatt tractor. It's a 28 disc, 1 kilowatt tractor. So we're using a John Deere 6920 that tracks this disc. Usually before we apply lime, we rip with disc, then we apply lime with disc again. And our soil is ready. We spray a pre-emergence herbicide. We usually use a herbicide called Gallican. Gallican, it's for controlling broadleaf. Then we have a herbicide called Dual Gold. Dual Gold, it's for a control of grass weeds. We spray using a boom sprayer in a tractor. The hectare was spraying 250 to 300 liters of mixed with 1 liter of Dual Gold and 2.5 liters of Gallican. Then you have to wait 7 to 10 days before you plant your cabbage. What it does, it creates a more like a blanket on top of your soils. So your seed bed has to be fine, 0 residues. So what it does, it creates more like a bed, a blanket on top of your soils. Now that limits or suppresses weeds from germinating. On days after you've sprayed, after you've sprayed, you have to irrigate 1 hour to 2 hours so that the chemical can go into your soils. We've never done a study behind how the effect of the chemicals on the soils, obviously, but we wanted to use that because de-weeding is very. Now, in 8 days, 9 days, you can plant your cabbages. You can go to the next slide if everyone is happy with the soil preparation, the soil sampling, application of the lime, and the spraying of the pre-emergence.
The question I have is that how are you spacing out the application of lime and the application of the herbicide? Like the timing. I don't know if you get my question.
Okay, Dr. Simkul, back in the days, we used to use the lime that you have to apply and wait for 5 to 6 weeks before you plant so that it can be incorporated into your soils. But now we have the lime that you apply today and tomorrow you start planting. And now what we do is this. After we've applied the lime with disc, the seed bed is fine. We start spraying. The next day or same day, we spray the herbicide. After we've sprayed the herbicide, we'll have to irrigate because both the herbicide and the lime requires water for soil incorporation.
Oh.
Then we wait for 7 days. So it's almost it's either the same day or next day.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Khona nombuzo? If so, Dr. Mchimkulu, you can move to the next slide. Now this is after 8 days. However, it depends on which cultivar you want to plant on the cabbage. There's a lot of them, depending on where you are and what season it is. In the Eastern Cape, we're planting cultivar called Xenia, Conquesquido, we have Green Star, we have Drumhead, we have Empower. Those are cabbages that can resist frost. Then if you want to plant in summer, you go for Empower and a variety called Megaton. So it has big heads. Megaton has big heads, and the next one after Megaton it's Manzanilla. After Manzanilla it's Grand Slam. The Megaton gives you mostly the big heads. Manzanilla gives you medium to big. Grand Slam medium to big. Then Empower gives you small, medium, and large. So small it's for bags because your cabbage can be sold either in bags. Medium, that's for shops like Spar, ShopRite. Then large, it's for informal market because the people from the streets want big heads so that they can attract customers. So what we do, we start planting after 7 days. Dr. Mtimkulu, you did ask how we apply the fertilizer on the soils. If you look at the second picture on the slide, you can see that there are lines that are drawn on the ground. Now, this is where the 4-row planter came in. So the fertilizer is planted already, it's under the soil. Yeah, we just plant the seedlings. We're using a space of a minimum of 40 centimeters in between our plants. The planter is 81 centimeters in between the rows. we can set it to 70. The minimum that we use in the cabbage is 70 centimeters in between the lines, and minimum we're using 40 centimeters between the crop, or spacing between crop to crop. Reason for that, you can use more, you can use less, but if you're using 40, at least you will get a medium size to a large size. If you're using 50, mostly you will have large size. If you're using, so the more you increase your space in between your plants or your cabbages, the more it gives you bigger, also, or the more you increase the space, the more it goes bigger. When you decrease the space, your cabbages, you get more small. So after we've planted, here we were planting, okay, we plant in cycles of 20,000 heads or 20,000 plants. Our hectare, we can get 20,000 to 25,000, sometimes 30,000, depending on the spacing that we've used. But now we are using 20,000, sorry, we're planting 20,000 plants a hectare, with the spacing that I've just said. We're using about 10 or less people to plant. We do have a planter to plant seedlings, but we've preferred not using it because of the grants that we got from the government. We are forced to employ people. When you put in more technology, you reduce the number of us. So we do have the planter. We use it if we are under pressure, or we know that it will rain tomorrow, or the day next, the day after tomorrow. But we had to consider, or we had to employ the youth. So the planter, you only use about four people on the planter. Whereas when you're planting by hands, you can plant with 8 to 10 people. So this is us planting. Straight after planting, we spray with a tractor, with a chemical called Karate Zone. It kills the cutworm. Cutworm, it's a worm that cuts the seedlings while they are young. Then day after we irrigate, or maybe 1 hour to 2 hours, or later if we spray it in the morning, or we spray it day after. Then later that day we start irrigating 1 hour to 2 hours. So I think I've covered almost everything in this slide, but I'll open for questions again.
Just a quick one on the karate. What's your your post-harvesting interval, or I'm not sure if that's the right term which is being used, but yeah, from time of spraying to harvest, what are the days like? What's the total number of days?
Okay. Okay. Anyone else with a question?
My question is that, so I'm going to take you back a little bit. You said you are in a high rainfall area here.
Yes.
So yes, but I keep hearing you when you talk about the irrigation. You'll be saying you irrigate for 1 to 2 hours and things like that. So do you take into consideration the amount of rainfall that you have when you're deciding as to how much water you're going to use to irrigate?
Okay. Anyone else?
Oh, as for me, I wanted to ask with regards to the tractors. Do you own the tractors or you hire them? And also, if you can estimate maybe the startup capital you used when you started. Yeah, those are the questions.
Okay, thanks. First question was the intervals of our spray program. Karate is not the only chemical that we use for spraying. There's about 5 chemicals, but I'll explain them and I'll explain the quantities that we use to apply them. So karate, we're using 30 mils on 200 liters, 200 to 250 liters. So at the beginning, we spray the same day we've planted with karate. Spray every week until week 10. Week 12 for 13. But in winter, if it's in winter, you can start harvesting in week 13 or 14 because with cold temperatures, your plants grow a bit slower than in summer. So we spray every week, mostly in summer because it's warm and it rains and heats are high. So it's favorable conditions for insects. So you have to spray every week. In fact, our spray program is that we spray every week. However, in winter, we can spray in every 2 weeks because it's cooler, you have less insects, low chances of getting aphids. So I think I've answered that question. So second one was all. Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Yes. I lost you there a bit. Were you saying you're spraying every week is with the karate or with a different product? I lost you somewhere in between there.
Okay. With different products, but I'm still going to cover that on a coming slide. So it's different products, about 5 products everywhere in different weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So yes, Dr. Mjimkulu, we do have high rainfalls. Our irrigation schedule is that we irrigate once or twice a week, but we're using a traditional method of looking at the moisture. So we just dig about 5 to 10 millimeters on the soil, and you see if there's still moist. It's still moist or underground, or it's dry. So if rain came, it's lucky for us. But when I say irrigate, I'm assuming that there were no rains. So yes, if rain did come, we use a method where we just dig and see if it's still moist or it's dry. Then we irrigate. So when I refer to irrigating, so if rains did come after we've applied lime and we've mixed our soils with lime and we've sprayed our pre-emergent spray, and later it rains, that's lucky for us. So yes, we do consider the rainfall compared to our irrigation schedules. And the tractors. In the beginning, we used to hire tractors. Now we have a 75 kilowatt landing tractor. We have that 110 kilowatt John Deere tractor. Then we have a 55 kilowatt John Deere tractor that came in that we bought it around November. So we have 3 tractors. What we busy pushing to now is to have almost all the equipment or all the implements to be used on the farm. We do have a maize planter, 4-row maize planter. We have a disc plow. We have a tractor boom sprayer. We have a ripper. We have a mulbot plow. We have a tractor trailer. We have a vibrotil that makes the soil fine. So it has tiny fingers like a ripper, but they are tiny, and there's a roller at the back. So we have those implements. We have 3 tractors, and around tractors. What was the other thing?
I asked about the startup capital.
Okay. Okay. For cabbage, that's production inputs. when I started, I've used about 30,000 to 35,000. It was on 2018, but now prices went up. Fertilizer prices went up from 450 per bag to about 700 and something to 800. So situations might differ because of time, but when we started, it was about 30 to 35,000, yes. And we did not go for expensive varieties, expensive fertilizers. We tried and minimize almost everything. Even the tractor use, we did not spray with tractors, the chemicals. We used knapsack sprayers. We planted with the seedling planter. We used to hire it from neighboring farms. So we tried by all means to minimize the cost of our operations. Then there's fencing. If you have unfenced land, luckily we used in Tsimi as a family in a way that was fenced already. So I'm not sure how much it will cost you to fence your land, maybe per hectare or maybe more hectares. After fencing, there's irrigation system. The pump that you're seeing, the 19 kilo, but I always advise people that are starters or want to start farming to go for a diesel pump at first, because installing three-phase or getting Eskom to install three-phase for you, it's very expensive. However, we were lucky because there was a transformer next to the farm, so it was a matter of taking three-phase by cable down to our switch box. So it was about 15,000 to do that. So imagine if you are far from a transformer and they have to come in and put in some poles and install a new transformer for you. So I always advise people to go for a diesel pump, a one cylinder can run about 20 to 25 sprinklers. But by referring to sprinklers, it's the cheapest one. So if you are a startup and you have some monies, you can go for a drip irrigation, because drip irrigation would be more simpler or not more cheaper as per se, but it would be cheaper per hectare if you're comparing it to sprinkler irrigations per hectare, because the pump that we are using, we got it with a 65,000. So it was 65,000. Then the sprinkler irrigations cost one sprinkler costs about the sprinkler stand, sprinkler head, the hose pipe. It's a 40-meter hose pipe. Our sprinklers. It's a drag line. It costed about 1.1 at that time per sprinkler. And you have the piping under the ground where you attach your sprinklers. So you can do the maths, but it's quite expensive, especially if you're starting on a land that there was nothing happening. Most of the people who approach me for advice are people who go to projects that failed and start there and move to doing their operation. So if you're gonna start, you have to have big pocket. So I think on the startup, I've covered almost everything. It's irrigation system, it's fencing. Then you have tractors to hire to prep your land or buy a tractor. Then you can go from there. And yes, we did build a room on the farm or in the land, so I stay there full time. So in terms of security, I don't have it. It's Fiso.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
He sounds traumatized.
Hey, the prices, yo.
MC.
If you were to go, if you were to go for a one cylinder, it would be cheaper. But what we've noticed is this: where as you're in the industry, some things are expensive because you're buying them without knowledge. Now we saw that if you would buy a pump motor alone, it's 11,000. If you buy the pump alone, it's 10,000. Now you have the frame for the pump. If you saw the pump that we have, so you have the frame for the pump, of which if you go to someone who does welding, that person would do that frame, including material, or maybe with 7 to 10,000. Now the other monies, it might be a markup for them, or it was labor or something else, but the pump was not worth 65. We just found it that now when it gave us issues. When we go to them, they fix it with expensive prices. There was this time that we had a bearings on the pump. The bearing costed about, with them it was 1.1, but when we went straight to a place where they manufacture or where they do bearings, it was 500. So I would advise that when you want to start, go straight to where the things are manufactured, not maybe the guy who assembles, who buys motor pump for the stand and assemble them and sell to you. So we went through that experience that some things are not expensive because they are expensive, but there's a middle person who buys, does that, and sell it at a highest price. Yeah, what is this?
Ngizwakala.
So we can continue to the next slide.
Okay, I've moved. Yeah. Can you see them?
Yeah. So I've almost spoke to this. So it's sprinklers. This is how we set our sprinklers. There's 12 meters in between. It goes to about the range of the sprinkler. It's 12 meters. So it has to overlap so that it gives you almost unique moisture. But with sprinklers, you never get perfect moisture in the soils because it does not feed equal amounts. If you want perfect amounts in your soils, you would go for center pivot. Even in center pivot, if it's not windy, you go for drip irrigation. Drip irrigation would give you 100% equal moisture in your soil. So yeah, you can go to a next slide. I think I've covered almost these slides.
Okay. Can you see the slides now?
Yes. Yeah, okay. Now we going to the herbicides part and the pesticides. So if you see there's pictures, you have the picture, the first picture, there's an image that is cycled with a, and yeah, you can see fertilizer or land granules next to the cabbage. However, I'll take you back. So now we've done week 1 where we've planted, sprayed with carotene. After that, you irrigate if it did not rain, and you wait for next coming week. Now week 2, you spray with chemical. Well, I'll refer to experience that or what we do at JJ. Now, if you go to places where they sell chemicals, they might come up with different names for the chemicals or different chemicals for the same purpose. So we've used a chemical called acephate. Chemical called acephate. We've used a chemical called shop buff. So it buffers the soils, or it creates a sustainable environment for the chemicals, or more like a hydro. There's a chemical called hydrowetter. So more like a wetting agent. Yes, it makes the chemicals to stick on the leaves of your plants. So week 2, we've sprayed with acephate. Acephate is mixed with hydrowetter. We've applied, it was 175 grams. 175 grams per 200 liters or 250 liters, depending. If you're spraying with a boom knapsack, you'll spray with 200 liters per hectare. If you're using a boom sprayer, you have to mix on 250 to 300 liters per hectare. Those liters are water, pure water liters, then you mix the chemical. So I think I should start with the spray program, then come back to top dressing and controlling the weeds. So on week 3, or maybe I should do both. Okay, on week 3, so on the second picture, you can see how clean it is. This is controlled by that Gallican and the dual gold. So there's no weeds that are emerging, 0 weeds that are emerging at this point. And we always keep our soils moist. We love doing that because we get high temperatures in the Eastern Cape, and it's not advisable to irrigate while it's 38 degrees, because while you are irrigating, there's evaporation. So you would sacrifice and irrigate over the night, then next day comes in and it's moist, and your plants can resist the heat, 38 or maybe 34 degrees of the sunlight. Now on week 3, we spray with a chemical called methamidophos. That chemical is it's a pesticide, methamidophos. We mix on one tank, either a boom spray or 200 liters tank. The methamidophos mixed with carbology in juice. Carbology in juice, it's a foliar fertilizer. And there's hydrowetter. So we spray those. However, if it's Monday, week 3 on Monday, we top dress. We top dress with LAN. At first, sorry, I did not tell you the amounts that we put on fertilizers. Per hectare on fertilizers, we're using a minimum of 8 bags. Should have been 16 bags to get at least 80 to 100% S yields. But when we started, we used 8 bags per hectare of. So you said that when you calibrate the planter, how many bags it should give you per hectare. So we used 8 bags per hectare, but now we are using a minimum of 16 bags per hectare. A maximum we can go up to 25 bags per hectare. We are using a 23430 fertilizer. However, if we do have in storage a 434 bag that we use to plant maize, we do use it in planting cabbage. So the trick on cabbage is to win it while it's still young. Now, if you see on the second picture, almost every plant is equal and unique. Clean with no bites from insects. That's where you should win cabbage at this stage. Irrigation wise, top dressing. So if you get your seedlings or your plants with big leaves. It's almost telling you that you have big heads. Now, if you have big plant, high chances that you get big heads. Healthy big leaves, you get big heads. We top dress on week 3 with LAN. Top dress with 5 bags. Now we should split our top dressing based on soil features. If you have sandy soils, you have to split your top dressing because nitrogen is very mobile in the soil, so it's easily washed away or leached away. Now we just split our fertilizer because we felt that our plants at this stage cannot take all of the nitrogen. So if we were not splitting the top dressing, we would be top dressing with 10 bags per hectare. But on week 3, we top dress with 5 bags of LAN. We have a chance of using urea, but we're using urea on maize. And urea, high chances that it will evaporate, and it's very mobile in the soils, and it gets your soils very acidic. So I'm not saying it's wrong, but we preferring LAN. Then on week 6, we top dress again with 5 bags. So we've splitted our top dress into two applications. Then if it's on Monday, you top dress, you irrigate, light irrigation, so that it can go through your soils. Then after 2 days, we start spraying with the spray program that I told you guys. Then that's it for the week. Week 4, we're spraying with chemical called SOBA. SOBA goes with so hydrowater is always there as a buffer or as a stick agent on the leaves. So we spray chemicals. Sorry, we spray SOBA. On week 5, we spray the acephate that we sprayed with. On week 1, goes with hydrowater. On week 6, we spray methamidophos with hydrowater and carbology-induced foliar fertilizer. On week 7, we spray a new chemical called methomine. So these are pesticides. Now on week 7 and 8, that's where it's likely that you get weeds germinating. But if they did not germinate, you're lucky. Or if you planted in March or April, going towards winter, they will not germinate at all. But if you've planted in September and going to December, it's a warm, from cool seasons to cool months to warm months, you will get germinations at around November if you planted in September or October. So if it's winter, your fields will be clean like this. However, if it does happen that your weeds emerge, you have to control them physically, especially if it's broadleaf. If it's grass weeds, you can use a chemical called Scop. Scop kills grass, only grass. But if it's broadleaf, unfortunately for cabbage, well, we did research, but we did not come across any chemical that you can spray at this age of your cabbage, and it can kill broadleaf and leaf because it's same family, broadleaf. It's same family with the cabbage, so you have to control them physical. So we use the old method called the scuffle, dragged by a tractor and control the weeds physical. So I think on this one we've covered I've covered almost everything, but if there are questions, it's fine. Someone can come in and ask anything. So our last month or last week of spraying, it's week 10 or 11. Then we do not spray on 12, 13, then we start harvesting on week. So it's about 3 weeks of no spraying before we harvest. So any questions? If there are no questions, then we can move on.
Mr. Mzimazi. Yeah, no, I just wanted to ask, man, what conditions, advantages or disadvantages the efficiency of your pre-emerging particle herbicide? That's one thing I just want to ask. Good.
So it's advantages and disadvantages.
No, which conditions that you would you
Okay.
prefer that you would label them to say through this condition they will either advantage or disadvantage the efficiency of your pre-emerging herbicide?
Okay. Any question? Any questions?
Oh, the thing I just wanted to check, Mzi, the fertilizer that you said you are applying, the 16 bags of fertilizer that you're saying you are applying, is it 2, 3, 4, 30?
Yes, 2, 3, 4, 30.
Okay, all right.
Okay, let me try and answer this one question. Okay, favorable conditions are more based on soil features. Usually, you have to work your soils to a point there where they are fine. Fine by fine is in like soft flower to work. Then that's where you can come in and spray the chemicals. But even on the label of the chemical, they say that it does work, but sometimes it cannot work. So you do get times where you spray with it and weeds emerge. But to get it right, spray on clean and nice seed bed and irrigate straight after so that it can go through your soils. So less chances that it cannot work. Less chances that it cannot work, but most of the time it does work. I'm not sure about the negative effects on the soils. I've never went deep on that one.
Okay. No, just a follow-up option. I mean, article question.
Okay.
On both, on this different irrigation system, what you call micro springers or the springers versus drip.
Yes.
Where do you get most of the efficiency?
Okay. The most popular ones, because the spray irrigation system, you usually get it under tunneling system, same as drip irrigation, but you do get drip irrigations on an open environment. Now I would list them from more effective or efficient to less efficient. So number one, drip irrigation. Drip irrigation gives you what you want straight to where you want it. Now, if you're doing fertigation, you're applying fertilizer through irrigation. You have a tank where you mix the fertilizer, the liquid fertilizer, and it goes with the drip irrigation pipes direct or straight into the roots of your plants. So there's no waste from it. Keeps the roots of the plants moist, and it limits. You have few weeds under drip irrigation, because the point of moisture, it's around the plant only. So there's no competition of water between weeds and plants. However, if weeds are next to the plant, there will be a competition. So that's number one. However, drip irrigation is very expensive, and you cannot just go in and install a drip irrigation. You need a technician or someone who's equipped in installing it and using it. So you need a lesser training around it before you just go and use it. It's very expensive to install, and it's labor intensive when you planting and straight out. So when you start harvesting your cabbage, you have to remove it so that you do not cut the pipes when you harvest. So that's where the labor comes in. So in every 3 to 4 months when you're harvesting your cabbage, you have to remove it. The second best at center pivot. Center pivot is more like a sprinkler, but it sprays water in a form of a mist-like. However, the uniqueness of water application into your soils, it's very unique than sprinklers. So sprinklers, that's a high waste water irrigation system, but you can survive around it, especially because even the cost of the center pivot, it's higher than the sprinklers. It's less than drip irrigation, depending on the size of the soil that you are working. Obviously, you wouldn't work 1 hectare under center pivot. Center pivot, at least to be financially efficient or cost efficient, you have to 5 hectares to 10 hectares because it's a big irrigation system. So you cannot just install it in 1 hectare and say in 1 hectare you're using a center pivot. There will be less returns because it uses electricity to run, which is a bit expensive. Third one would be sprinkler irrigation, third best, and the last one or fourth best would be flood irrigation. That one it wastes water, especially you cannot do it in sandy soils. You can try in loamy soils, but because drainage is very, very high in sandy soils, it's medium in loamy soils, so you have to do it at least in clay soil so that your water can stick around and you have to do it in flat soils, flood irrigation. So yeah, I think I've covered your questions if you are okay with that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, this is, I think it was on week 6, this one, on the slide that we are in, the first picture. It's on week 6. That's where you top dress for the second. If you can see on this one too, it's clean. That's because we spray that because one aspect where I can say farming is very hard. It's de-weeding. De-weeding is very hard, and everyone is struggling with de-weeding. However, the chemicals to control. So this one was on week 6, and we were irrigating. It was straight after we top dressed our cabbage. So you have to top dress, keep it black green all the time, and you get good yield. There it's harvesting. So obviously when you harvest, you need a transport to transport our product. We'll get the guys who are middle guys. They have trucks, they buy from farmers and sell to formal market. If you're selling your cabbage to them, you have to sell your cabbage from 7 rand to 8 rand. But now we've moved from 8 to 10 rand. And then they go and sell from 13, 14, 15 rand to Spar. So the advantage with the guys is this: they just come in and harvest everything and sell it. So you don't have any issue with getting your products rotten on the field, or where there's a time where you say you don't have a market or something. Because most of the shops around Mthatha, they've given contracts to those guys because I don't blame them. One thing is this: if they want from the formal markets, if they want a product in their shop, they want it. If you have it or not, they want something on their shelves. Now, the guys with trucks who goes and buy from different farmers and sell to the formal market would go to even KZN and buy cabbage, be on loss. That's the contract, so that there is a cabbage in the shop. Now, we are still busy working on having a constant supply to the shops, so that anytime they want cabbage, we have cabbage. We're still figuring ways to do that. We did try planting in almost every 3 weeks, plant, so that we harvest almost every week when we start out. But unfortunately we can do that maybe for 6 weeks because we cannot plant in winter. It's very difficult to plant cabbage in December because even the labor is not around. It's very hot, it's raining, so it can rain a week or 2 weeks. You don't have time to spray or de-weed. So in November, December, it's very difficult to grow cabbage, but we do try. So one of the components that is it's very important, and it's beating farmers. It's a logistic part. Parts of it, having a buggy or a truck to transport your product, and cabbage is one of heaviest products. So I'm not sure if we have questions on that slide so that we can go to the next one. Yeah, this is the last part of my presentation. So this is the first product that I've showed on the first slide. So almost everything that I've said gets you to produce great quality cabbage to this point where you transport it to formal market or informal market and sell it. So what I did not cover is this: we're selling our cabbage now. We have a truck and a buggy, so we're selling our cabbage direct to the supermarkets at 13 rands per head. Then if we're selling bags, we're selling a bag at about 35 to 40 rand per bag of cabbage. Financial wise, per hectare, if you planted 10,000, so if you planted 10,000 cabbages, or maybe in half a hectare, high chances that if you did well in managing it, high chances is that you can harvest from 8,000 to 8,000. I'm trying to be realistic as much as I can, because it's very dangerous to be optimistic in the farming sector. You rather be pessimistic than realistic, maybe. So you can get, with good management, good fertilizer applications, good season, you would get 8,000 to 9,000 heads. Then the other maybe 9.5 sometimes. So it depends on how the season was. So I don't like presenting the financial part of farming, because it shows as if there's large monies on farming. But yes, there are monies on farming, but it does not just come out. You have to work for it. So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Budim Timkulu, for inviting me in. And yeah, Ngosin.
Thank you very much, Mzi. I don't know if there's any other question, colleagues. or any comment if you want to make a comment. I will stop presenting here so that I can see the hands in case there's someone.
I would like to comment on the presentation. It was so informative, impressive actually. I also needed to ask 2 questions with regard to the funding. How did Mr. Jali go about the fundings, and also if it's possible that I can get his numbers so that I can get some few advices.
Okay.
Clarence, I saw you. I don't know if you want to say something. I saw some movements there.
I think somewhere in the middle of the presentation, you was talking about wanting to expand from your current 5 so that you can meet demands. So it just got me thinking now, what are the demands now, and what would you say it's the right production line for you, where vegetable production is concerned, because now you're already at the level of diversification, you know. But just looking at your, I think from what I've gathered here, cabbage is still like your main crop. So in terms of what would you say, this is the target that you want to accomplish?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Clarence. I have my own question as well. My question is on, I'm just trying to put myself in your feet. And I remember when you started in 2018, trying to get into your mind, what was happening in your mind? Like, where did you get the courage? Like, where did you get the courage? I mean, to actually grab the bull by the horns, you know, because the work that you're doing, it's huge, you know. And it's. I mean, you're working, and then I mean, just leaving your job, and then you go and start something like this. And I believe it's gonna be even bigger than what it is now. I'm just trying to think, where did this courage come from? You know, yeah.
Okay. Inkosi budi mntu omkhulu. Okay. The fundings part. Okay. I started saving in my 2nd year. I had a good bursary while I was studying at UKZN. Bursary gave me, I think it was the time where they would give you a monthly stipend once, because they gave me about 30,000 once off. It was a stipend for a year. Now imagine someone who comes from rural areas and boom, you have a 30,000 in your account. You have 2 minds: either you save it or you go back home and improve your household livelihood, or you spend it. Now, some things just come, and you don't know how, because I had those options, but I saved the money, because we were staying at Sidara, and Sidara The school was cooking for almost everything was done for us. So there was no use for a stipend. So out of that 30,000, I think in that year I've spent only about 5,000. So I had 25,000 in my second year. Now, third year, and again on honors, I got, it was in 2016. I had a good bursary again, gave me about 20,000. So I think in 2016, I had about 47,000. I went to Sasri, where I worked for about 2 years. Again, at Sasri, we stayed at Sasri. Almost everything was done for us, washing, food, place to stay, so we were not renting. So almost every salary that I was getting at Sasri, I was saving it, or maybe half of it. So when I came out, I had about 60 to 70,000 when I resigned and started to improve the farming business that I had, which was on 2018, where I made things more formally. Straight when I was starting, I've approached, there's a bank under government in the Eastern Cape called ECRDA. I think on your side it's Itala, yeah. I approached that bank. Fortunately, the land was fenced already. So I've hired a tractor and they did land prep. So what I usually advise people who are looking for funding is this: do something, start something, so that when you call for a funder or someone who's gonna sponsor, that person comes in and there's something that you've done already. So we had fencing already done. We did land prep. What I've said is this: I've prepared the land, I've fenced the land. All I need is irrigation system. I have money for production inputs. Luckily, I've already bought so the person who came in to assess if I do exist for real, so that the loan can be approved or not, came in and saw that I've bought the fertilizers, I've done land prep, the land is fenced. All I needed was irrigation system. I was lucky the loan was approved. It was a loan of about 45,000. Also approached NYDA on the same time. NYDA gave me 50. So they have 3 thresholds based on the level of operation of the business, or what the business wants, or based on your experience on the business. So what spoke for me was my qualification, because I had agribusiness for honors. So they knew that they were giving someone who at least has an idea how a business is run. So they had an option of 10,000, 20,000, and 50,000. Then you can apply after 2 years. If you got the 50,000, and you can apply for 100. So that 100,000, the second time 100,000, it's guaranteed, because you've already got the grant on the first year. So they gave me 50,000. So it was 50,000, 30,000 in the loan. And personally, after I've bought the production inputs and did the land prep, I had about 20 to 25,000. So I had about 100 grants, where I've bought the pump, irrigation system, and employed people to plant for the first time. Transport, I was using my family's bakkie, 2.4 bakkie, old bakkie. It was bought on 204. So operated on the first year. It was a successful production season. Did manage to sell almost everything. I think I got about 150 to 200,000. That's where we've started to expand. Now in 2019, I've applied for funding program, but it was based on the Eastern Cape under economic development. Rural economic development. It was a program called Isiqalo. It was a 3 million funding, but I did manage to get an approval of 1.135 million. That's where I fitted in the implements and the tractor. But what I want to say is this: it's very difficult to get the fundings. However, it's very easy if you create recognition of your business. So try by all means to start. Do not rush for fundings, but create a name out of your business. Advertise your business in any way. If you have to go to the departments and show your product, invite them to see what you are doing, stimulate something from them so that when you apply, you are known. So that's an advice that I can give. It's very difficult to get fundings if you have no start or you haven't started anything. So on the fundings part, I think I've covered. We do have fundings that we still want to apply for, but we look at our scale and look at the size of the. Obviously, if you are starting, it's impossible to apply for 3 million when you are starting because no one knows if you can handle the 3 million. But if you got 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, and when you go for that 3 million, you do mention that I've received such funds. They took me to point A to B or C. Now I need the 3 million to go to point E. It's very easy, not easy as per se, but it encourages them. It encourages them, or it gives them a clue that if this person gets a grant fund, this person uses it in a right way or correct way. So it's important to look at the scale of your business and look at the size of your of the funding that. So it wouldn't make sense if now we're applying for a grant fund of 10,000. It does not. Yes, we do need 10,000, but does not make sense at the scale of the business compared to the funding that we would apply for. So yes, now we're still looking for more fundings, but we are shifting to more loans than grants. Because with grants, they take time. You can apply for one funding and wait for a year. So if you apply for grants, do what you were doing and wait for them when they come at that point of time. So it's not a thing that you can depend on. That's what I want to. Okay, on the demands part, yes, we want to expand our production levels because now we are producing at least 8,000 to 9,000 heads a month. Yes, that's for two spa shops. But we have people that come in and want to buy. Now we have to be strict and say, no, we're not selling to you guys. We're only selling to spa. Now, when I say expand, we want to cover the informal market, which is the hawkers, and cover the formal market. For now, we do not meet that demand. So the demand that we at least want to go to is to sell 4,000 to 5,000 per month at least. That's the demand that we want to meet per week. So every week we have those quantities. We have a market that is in in East London. They want 10,000 cabbage heads per week. Now that's so I said no, not now, because that would mean we have to compromise the deal that we have with the local spas, and with the markets, the prices are very low, and you have this the 12.5% commission for the agent that will be selling the product for you. So it's a market that you have to send in high quantities so that you get at least big monies back, and you do not feel the cost of the transport to the market and the and the commission for the agent. So yes, in future we want to grow at least to 15 to 20 hectares of cabbage, and maybe at least 15 to 30 in potatoes. Spinach will keep it small, maybe 5 hectares. Then on maize we want to at least go to 500. So yes, we are still growing. We have demands to meet, but the guys that we are supplying do understand that we are still growing. I think I wish I've covered you, clearance on that one. Hey, put him Tim cool. Okay. I think I'll have to take it back to the college at Sidara, and what pushed me to move to a business point of view or sector, if I can say. I went to school to study so that, almost everyone is groomed in that way, so that you can go and work. However, we grow up to families where we have omama bekula who did not go to school, besifundisa selling, or maybe inkukhu, selling vegetables and all of that. I did not have the business mind until my second year, where we did it was I think risk management and business management, agribusiness management. It came to my mind that back at home, especially in the Eastern Cape, we have huge lands, good lands, high rainfalls, big rivers running around. And I was curious, why isn't that Eastern Cape is not the same as KZN in terms of the greenness? By greenness, not naturally, but the level of farming. If you travel, if someone did travel to Eastern Cape once, as soon as you cross the board after could ask myself, why isn't that there's no one farming in the Eastern Cape? That's one thing that motivated me to do this. Number two is this: I had a big family of uneducated people, especially my cousin. Now I knew that if I work and depend on that salary, that means that salary would have to support them, support my family, being umama, utata, support my family. That means my wife and abantwana bam on one salary. So I was like, no, there's no way. Even if I can study and go to a level where I can say I'm earning or maybe 50 something, but still there's no way I can support everyone. So I came with an idea of saying, let me open a business. Obviously, it would be a farming business because I'm under farming, where everyone who wants imali from the family will say, let's go and work with farm. The rate that we use for abasebenzi, casual workers, we're using 140. Then I buy ukudla for bona with the 20 rand, so I pay them 120. So for lunch, we buy food for them, because we came across an issue where we say if they bring in their own food, some don't do that, and the rate of work is compromised by the whole day. So they say, to be unique, we're buying food for you guys, less 20 rand from your wages, so we're paying them 120. So if someone from my family wants maybe 500, I'll say, let's go, you just work for 1 week, then you get your 500. So that's the strategy that I came with, or that's how that's what pushed me to starting the business. Third thing is this: For someone who's working, I always say, if you have responsibilities already, things like abandwana, you have a wife, you have imoto that you have installments as almost every month. Do not resign and run a farm. You rather continue working so that you cover the cost. Maybe you have someone else who's interested in farming as your farm manager, and you grow from there. I do not promote resigning from a permanent position, or especially when you have responsibility. So for me, I did that with zero responsibility. The only responsibility that I have was me. I did not have ingane. My family, obviously, I was getting a stipend at Sasri, so I did not create that environment where I send maybe 2,000 or something every month, so that if I resign, everyone will starve. So I did that with zero responsibility, so that should anything fail on the business, I still have to try again with no pressure from personal costs or anything. So that's another element that people should look at. Do not resign, because things will not go as you planned on the farming side, or maybe for 2 to 3 years. Now imagine if you have car installments, you're paying a house, you have a family that depends on you. Obviously, I had pressure because parents did not understand. Wow, how you started to honors, and now we're expecting Buzo Sebenza and send us money and all of that. Now suddenly you just came back and you have no money and you're starting business. And I was like, just wait for about 5 years and you will see why I resigned. Now, looking at your rate of unemployment, the COVID, most of the people have lost their jobs, and they were like, hey, there's this business thing that you came back and did. That's actually an option. So yes, those are some of things that motivated me to start the business. It was scary. I don't want to lie. At the time I was typing the resignation letter at Sasri, but luckily Ingrid, my supervisor, was supporting it. Rowan, Billy, most of the white guys were supporting it. And I did show Ingrid my first business plan. She did go through it just to see the feasibility parts of it. While I was at Sasra, I was collecting information to start business, because almost all the big guys, I used to go and grab information to the irrigation system, soils information. I even went to you and you calculated fertilizer recommendations for me. So it takes big heart to start, but it's very scary because you don't know what you're going through or what you will go through, because it was my first time running a business. So it was very scary, but I did push through.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Bra, for sharing your story. Wow. You know, thank you so much for making the time to be here and share your story and the project that you're doing. And please, in your diary, you must know that you're coming back sometime later this year for another enterprise. Yeah, no, thank you very much, man. Colleagues, and thank you for staying until now. We normally take about an hour. If we are late, it's 1 hour, 30 minutes. And I see now we've taken about 2 hours. Thank you, colleagues, for staying until now and for the questions that you've been asking and the comments and the whole engagement. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would like us to just stop here, and then I would say enjoy the rest of the week.
Okay, thanks, Bud.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.